Welcome to Still Kicking with Billy Howard. It is Tuesday, July 25th, 2017, and I am your host, Billy Howard. And as you can see, I'm still kicking, but I'm not sure for how much longer. I'm growing weary. I'm growing tired. I'm tired of the media hate fest directed at our president. As the media fixates and obsesses and dwells on the Russian conspiracy theory, good news is ignored. So in my tiny microscopic way, I'll try to relate some of this ignored news, good and bad. First, the bad. The Justice Department is going to resume its role in asset forfeitures. Now, if you don't know what asset forfeiture is, that's where law enforcement agencies steal billions of dollars from American citizens every year. And those billions actually add up to more than all of the theft by actual, just private criminals, including the banks. It's a program that has done more to corrupt law enforcement and police than any in world history, including the institution of racism. It turns cops into thieves. It gives cops a financial incentive to arrest people and steal their cash without a trial or even a hearing. It turns due process and the rule of law into a sad, cynical joke. Mr. Trump regrets hiring Senator Sessions for all the wrong reasons. But to be fair, the good news: illegal border crossings are down 70%. Salaries, it's just been reported, at smaller companies are rising. 58% of small firms are having difficulties finding workers, so they are boosting pay or benefits to attract applicants and keep the workers they have. And I think this has something to do with the fact that there are fewer illegals crossing the border that they can hire. And when the supply of cheap labor goes down, the price of cheap labor must go up. It's just supply and demand. Also, as a result of fewer illegal low-skilled workers, there is more good news. According to this Friday's July 21st Wall Street Journal, quote, pay for the lowest income Americans is rising faster than for other groups. So it's rising, and rising faster. And to that I say, hallelujah. Democrats and Republicans don't even pay lip service to low-wage workers. President Trump has delivered in concrete terms in less than 1 year in office. But don't expect NPR or any other networks or newspapers to take note. It doesn't fit with their anti-Trump agendas. And I want to show you this real briefly. In this month's Atlantic, which I read a lot of things, and this is the July-August edition, there's an article. There were a few articles that were a little, mea culpa-ish for the Democrats and the liberals. This one's called The Democrats' Immigration Mistake. You can see it. And I want to read you just this one paragraph. In 2005, a left-leaning blogger wrote, quote, illegal immigration wreaks havoc economically, socially, and culturally. It makes a mockery of the rule of law and is disgraceful just on the basic fairness grounds alone. A year later, in 2006, a liberal columnist wrote that, quote, immigration reduces the wages of domestic workers who compete with immigrants, and that the fiscal burden of low-wage immigrants is also pretty clear. He concludes, we'll need to reduce the inflow of low-skilled immigrants. That same year, a Democratic senator wrote, when I see Mexican flags waved at pro-immigration demonstrations, I sometimes feel a flush of patriotic resentment. When I'm forced to use a translator to communicate with the guy fixing my car, I feel a certain frustration. The blogger was Glenn Greenwald of WikiLeaks fame from The Guardian in England. The columnist was Paul Krugman, the now main cheerleader for globalization and open borders. And the senator was Barack Obama. And all of this They said these things before the recession, back when Google was just on its trajectory straight up. And why did they change? Well, according to this article, I'll synopsize it for you. It was because they thought, the liberals and the Democrats thought that the demographics of all this immigration would work in their favor. They believed that these people would vote for them, and well, you know what? Didn't work out in 2016 because it takes a while for them to actually earn their citizenship, even when we do amnesty and get the vote. I guess that's the reason. So it didn't work out, but what it basically means, that the takeaway of this is that they ditched the working class for power. And power does corrupt, and it corrupts absolutely. So, more good news. Trump is getting tough with China. First, he imposed sanctions on a Chinese bank and 2 individuals for abetting North Korea. Second, he listed China as one of the worst offenders in human trafficking. Third, he made an arms sale of $1.4 billion to Taiwan. Fourth, he called for more freedom in Hong Kong and freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. These 4 things fulfill campaign promises and end a long period of weak, namby-pamby diplomacy with China that has devastated our middle class. Trump has played good cop when he had Xi over at Mar-a-Lago, and he's played bad cop with China. He's been a realist, and it is starting to pay off. And he's been transactional, and I really do think that's what we need, because we're getting the worst end of all these transactions. Well, unless you're the 1%, then you're doing great. China, this is good news, is resuming American beef imports after the mad cow scare, and Trump achieved that, his diplomacy. And they are also accepting American natural gas imports. And I just read recently, and I couldn't find the article again, I must have thrown it away, China is accepting American rice imports. And that's helping Arkansas, also known as Clinton country. And in today's Wall Street Journal, China has been strengthening defenses along its 880-mile border with North to Kim Jong-un. Is it risky? Well, sure it is. But there's no gain without some risk. And somebody has to stand up to these people. And China is finally showing signs of standing up to them. And they have the most leverage with North Korea. So that's good. Now, last week I promised that I'd talk about tech in general and Visa in particular. As I said at the start of the show, I'm growing tired. Tired of beating my head and soul against the wall of indifference of people who worship technology and big tech. God, who deserves our worship and who created us to be free, has been reduced to a backwards fairy tale in the hearts and mind of our technology-worshiping know-it-all elites and all those elite posers. God has been replaced by greedy big tech that is destroying our freedom and our power. And here's a poll that shows the way people feel about their power. Poll, 3/4 say they lack pull. 3/4, that's 75% of Americans. 3/4 of Americans agree that people like themselves have too little influence in Washington. Rare unanimity across political, economic, racial, and geographical lines, and including both those who support and disapprove of President Donald Trump. And this was according to the Associated Press. I'm sorry, I can hardly talk. Also in this poll, I thought this was interesting. Beyond government, only about 11% of Americans say they have a lot of confidence in the news media. So it's not just Donald Trump that thinks the news media is full of it. It's the majority of Americans. The American people are not total fools. We have traded our freedom for a censor-filled smartphone. To smartphones, we bow our heads. Human contact used to be the norm. Now it is rare. Talking to people is often like talking to squirrels, so distracted by their phones. You know, the squirrels are always looking for that hawk that's about to come down and get them. Well, we're distracted by our phones. The creative community has been devastated by big tech and their platform monopolies. Journalists, musicians, authors, filmmakers are being robbed by the likes of Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft. Since the year 2000, revenues for recorded music have plunged from $20 billion a year to just $8 billion a year. Newspaper revenues have free-fallen from $66 billion per year to $23 billion per year. It's no surprise that the quality of music and journalism has become so poor. And I hate to say that about music, but it is true in my old geezer opinion. And I think this is true because you get what you pay for. Google is the biggest media company in the world, and it resists letting third parties measure its audiences. If a 30-second ad is seen for 2 seconds, it counts as a view. In broadcast media, the entire 30 seconds must be seen to count as a view. And the broadcast media uses third parties like Arbitron for radio and Nielsen for TV. At big tech, there is no transparency. But what can big advertisers do? Google has a monopoly. They have over 70% of all searches. And it is a monopoly for the most part. Same with Facebook. Only big tech has privacy. As they pry into our minds, as they pry into our lives, as they pry into our hopes and our dreams, and as they pry into our very souls. We are so distracted by their I ask this question, are we so distracted by their beeps, bells, and whistles that we don't notice this hypocrisy, that we don't notice this evil? I was raised in the TV age, which our parents called the boob tube. They thought it was dumbing us down, that we would be better off reading books. Now we have the mean screens. Suicide rates for middle schoolers, kids 10 to 14 years old, have doubled since 2007. 2007, that's when Google was going woo and Facebook was going woo. Most likely from the relentless cyberbullying and the pace and pressure of STEM expectations. All these pressures land on our kids who are too young to have developed coping skills. Good Lord knows I can barely cope with all this surveillance and technology. And does big tech care about these suicides? Do you care about these suicides? These same kids rarely see their parents who work multiple jobs in our global labor market just to survive. These kids are latchkey kids. They have no sounding board, no adult hardly at all to talk to. And how many times have I witnessed young children pleading for their parents' attention as their parents bow their heads to their cell phones, sucked into the black hole of the internet, the time hole, the porn utopia. And there is no escape from this nightmare of technology and surveillance. As you know, I have no devices, but I can't hide from Google Earth or other people's sensor-filled smartphones, like my good producer Pete's cell phone, which is sitting right here, just a few feet away from me, listening to this conversation and monitoring my heart rate. You know, and I can't escape the government's license plate scanners if I drive my car. And today I had to wait, or yesterday I had to wait longer in line at the Walmart as cashiers and customers try to get their cards and phone payments to work. Oh, try your card again. Pull it out of the reader and put it back in. Okay, now press this, not press that. Well, let me come around. You know, all this to buy a loaf of bread. How I miss cash. So quick and so private. Now, Visa, the credit card company, is actually offering merchants. They're offering to pay merchants to stop accepting cash. So the push is really on. The money has come out to kill cash and make all payments electronic. And in that case, every transaction will be recorded, and another prophecy of the book of Revelation will be fulfilled. The beast will get its way for now. Big tech calls for net neutrality, while Google rigs searches and Facebook manipulates its news feed, and both profit wildly from fake news. And they should call it fake book. And you know what? They know who these fake news people are. They set their websites up on their platform. They probably even know their credit card numbers. But they're protected because, it makes money. And fake news is wildly popular. People love conspiracies. And Apple, it's just been reported, is letting the totalitarian government of China store the cloud data of its Chinese customers on a Chinese government-owned company. Such greed, such cowardice. Apple's gay hypocrite CEO, Tim Cook, boycotts Indiana while he sells iPhones to the gay murderers in Saudi Arabia and other countries in the greater Middle East. Such hypocrisy, such greed, such cowardice. Oh, and Apple pays almost nothing in U.S. taxes. Such patriots, eh? Such bullies, yes. And such greedy bullies. The traditional media tries to catch up with big tech by bullying the workers, those citizens who put Trump in office. They call him a bully as they relentlessly gang up on him and bully him. Such liars, such hypocrites, such cowards are traditional press. And do you think artificial intelligence will be as racist and as sexist as big tech is? You read about this all the time. Women have a hard time in big tech. Blacks, almost non-existent. You can bet on it. They're going to be just as racist and just as sexist because those are the people who are writing these algorithms. Here's to the future. While tech heads take selfies at art museums, I'll just appreciate the beauty of the art with my own eyes. While tech heads take selfies in nature, I'll experience nature with all my senses. I'll be in it. I'll try to be part of it because, we are biological creatures just like the animals and the amphibians and the reptiles and the bugs. It's like having the world to myself, but it's kind of lonely. At least I don't feel suicidal, just tired, just weary. I love all you tech heads, I really do. I love Pete. Pete's a good person. He's a good producer and a really good realtor. But I feel alienated. I don't belong in this age. And I don't belong because I love freedom and I love privacy. I love a slower pace. And I love human contact. And it just occurred to me that those friends are over 80 years old. They still know how to be human. What will I do when they are gone? I think I'll take my 2 cats on a long camping adventure. How to be human. As big tech becomes obscenely wealthy, America becomes an impoverished, loveless wasteland. Cold, brittle, angry, mean, shallow, and above all, boring. And much less free and prosperous. Enjoy the hate fest of elite American society. Roll your eyes at the deplorables. Sneer at the uneducated. Blame the victims of your own heartlessness. Cheat, lie, steal, like our political and business leaders do. Puff out your chest. Look down your nose and strut over the weak and the displaced. Bomb the mud hut villages with your high-tech drones. Don't you feel smart and superior? Destroy cities like Mosul in Iraq with your cowardly airstrikes and call it liberation. Lie, cheat, steal, commit mass murder, and torture on an industrial global scale. It's the new American way. Just like our sports teams, cheating, whether it's the Patriots or U of L, with their prostitutes. Follow your elites straight to hell. Hell, where income inequality is even more extreme. Hell, where torture is more extreme. Hell, well, where everyone sneers. Hell, where everyone is a victim. Hell, where there is no democracy for the poor or anyone else. Hell, where there is no freedom at all. We are creating a hyper-heartless, fast-paced, competitive, hellish world where children off themselves at higher rates. We worship the likes of heartless men like Steve Jobs, shrill screamers like Bill Gates, and extreme welfare queens like Elon Musk. These are the people who sneer at freedom, fairness, democracy, and what was once the American way. Thank you for watching Still Kicking with Billy Howard. We'll be back next week, that is if I'm still kicking. Live up, be free, and remember, I care about you. Do you care? Do you care about our children? Do you care about freedom? Do you care about prosperity? See you next week.